Hello students, I'm Dr. Anita Pandey from Sri Shankaracharya Mahavidyalaya Jinwani Bhilai, and today I'm going to tell you all about disaster management. So let's first have an introduction as to what exactly is disaster management. So disaster management can be defined as the organization and management of resources and responsibilities for dealing with all humanitarian aspects of emergencies, in particular preparedness, response, and recovery, in order to lessen the impact of disasters. So, disasters can be either human made or man made. Human made examples of human made disasters are what happened in Chernobyl and Bhopal gas tragedy, right? And of course, natural disasters are earthquakes, tsunami, cyclones, etc. So, the main focus of disaster management is reducing the detrimental impact of those disasters, the life that those disasters affect. So, it involves organization and management of both resources and responsibilities for dealing with those humanitarian aspects. Humanitarian aspect means it involves everything right from rescuing people, providing them with proper care, be it either from medical perspective or from providing a shelter and food perspective, and ensuring that they get proper care, they get rehabilitated after the disaster is over, right? So the first people to respond to a disaster are those living in the local community, because of course they are the first people to reach the place that has been affected. They're the first to start rescue and relief operations. Therefore, the Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies focus on community based disaster preparedness, which assists communities to reduce their vulnerability to disasters and strengthen their capacities to resist them. So, given that the first people to respond are the people who are the nearest to the local community, these famous societies on the international level, which are Red Cross and Red Crescent National Society, they have been training people to deal with those disasters on their own level to reduce their vulnerability. Vulnerability means the exposure to their weaknesses, right? Or where they lack strength. The people lack strength, their weak areas. So, to reduce their vulnerabilities to disasters, because disasters have detrimental effect, and to strengthen their capacities to resist them, these Red Cross and Red Crescent Society have come up with plan to actually train people, the local people, especially in disaster prone zones, to take steps. They teach them how to keep a cool or level head once disaster strikes, and provide the preliminary level of rescue and help, be it medical or be it food or shelter related. So let us understand the four phases of disaster management, which is first is preparedness. Of course, if you know about it, maybe you may be knowing about it, that especially in those areas which are prone to earthquakes, there are even in schools and colleges, drills are conducted to teach people how to deal with this situation, how to keep themselves as well as the people around them safe once when earth starts trembling or earthquake strikes, right? So that is all about preparedness. And even in areas which are very prone to no in especially in countries like America, where tornadoes are quite common, people actually have storm shelters, and they are completely stocked with ration and food, so that people know where to seek shelter once something as disastrous as a tornado strikes, and they go there and they have everything right from sleeping bags and food and water. So that is all about preparedness. Then comes response. Response is after the disaster has come and struck, and the everything is in shambles. Then how exactly will you respond? How rescue workers, or in India we have NDRF, so how they go and help people, how they take out people if from no if there are if everything is in shambles, or if there is something like a building has fallen down and people are stuck beneath it. So that is all about response. Then there comes recovery. And recovery is all about ensuring that those people get they get the time to recover. They have psychological, emotional, and food, shelter, medical related support, so they have a peaceful recovery. And then there comes mitigation is all about how to mitigate the risk of these disasters, how to alleviate them, how to remove them to a great extent. Of course, it is not possible to completely remove the risk or the dangers involved in a disaster, but of course, to some extent, you can manage them. So that is all about mitigation. It is a never-ending circle or a never-ending process. These four phases. Now, of course, I explained this, but again, preparedness is activities prior to disasters. Like warning system, of course, are also part of preparedness. Warning system, like how does the meteorological department warns about cyclones and people are displaced from the areas near coastal area. You must have seen it in when Amphan struck, and just recently Nivar cyclone affected Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Then response is activities during a disaster, emergency, search, operation, rescue, public warning system, etc. Recovery is temporary housing, claims, processing and grants. If people, you must have seen that if some people die, then governments announce relief to their family members, some packages, monetary packages, long-term medical care and counseling. Then comes mitigation, activities that reduce the effects of disasters, building codes and zoning. This happens particularly for earthquake. You must be knowing earthquake zones. Then vulnerability analysis, public education. It is all a part of mitigation. Now let us learn about disaster management in India. So as India is a very large country and we have all kind of geographical areas, be it geographical terrains, I should say, be it this mountain areas where landslides occur frequently, be it coastal area, be it desert region, we have everything. So of course, since India is a very large country and different regions are vulnerable to different kinds of natural disasters. For example, this cyclone Nivar, which came in November and which affected South India, particularly Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. Then the new approach to disaster management started from the conviction that development cannot be sustained unless mitigation is built into the development process. Now, if you guys remember about tsunami that came in 2004, it pushed back any disaster of that level of magnitude or that scale. It pushes back development of that particular area which has been affected to a very huge extent. So this new approach to disaster management that India has adopted is all about preparing, or it has started from the conviction that the same level of development or the setback to development can be reduced only by mitigating or by preparing and employing mitigating factors to sustain that development process whenever disaster struck. Another cornerstone of this new approach is that mitigation must be multidisciplinary, spanning across all sectors of development. So multidisciplinary in the sense it cannot be a disaster has effect on a lot of areas. So you cannot be go on a single track. Yeah, just provide no, just train people and get done with it. No, you have to think about every aspect, every facet of that might get affected, and that is all about this new approach. It is a cornerstone of this new approach. The new policy also emanates from the belief that investments in mitigation are much more cost effective than expenditure on relief and rehabilitation. Of course, as it is said, prevention is better than cure. That is what is the main gist of this line, that investment in mitigating those employing those mitigating factor is quite less or cost effective than the expenditure that will be incurred in providing relief to affected people and rehabilitating them to the position that they were prior to the disaster. Now, disaster management occupies an important place in India's policy framework, as poor people are most affected by disaster and they are India's predominant population. The approach has been translated into a national disaster framework, a roadmap, and this is what is the new approach that India has adopted, covering institutional mechanisms, disaster prevention strategy, early warning system, disaster mitigation, preparedness and response, and human resource development. So, this national disaster framework is an amalgam or is a mixture of all those four phases that we read about, and it predominantly focuses on this warning system, mitigation, and preparedness. Because, as we read earlier, the cost preparedness and mitigation are more cost effective than relief and rehabilitation, right? So, that is what is the focus here. The expected inputs, areas of intervention, and agencies to be involved at the national, state, and district level have been identified and listed in the roadmap. Of course, just like in any organization, there is a proper NDRF, is National Disaster. Whenever any national disaster strikes, NDRF goes there and they have a proper system, right? They have a proper system, they have proper hierarchy, they have lines of responsibilities, and they follow this national disaster framework, and they have inputs, areas of intervention, and agencies to be involved at different stages, at different levels, be it national, state, and district. So this roadmap has been shared with our state government and union territory administrations. And of course, since this framework, national disaster framework, has been shared with all the governments, so that, because of course they will be the first to respond to any disasters. So it has been shared because it also helps in preparedness and mitigating those risks of disasters. So India also enacted Disaster Management Act back in 2005. The Disaster Management Act was passed by the Lok Sabha on 28th November 2005 and by Rajya Sabha on 12th December 2005. It received the assent means approval, because of course every such act has to receive approval of the president before it comes into existence, even if it has been passed by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So this Disaster Management Act 2005 received the assent of the President of India on 9th January 2006. The act calls for establishment of National Disaster Management Authority with the Prime Minister of India as chairperson. The NDMA has no more than 9 members at a time, including a vice chairperson. The tenure of the members of the NDMA is 5 years, and the NDMA is responsible for laying down the policies, plans, and guidelines for disaster management and to ensure very timely and effective response to disasters. So, this NDMA is behind that national disaster is behind formulating that national disaster framework, and NDRF is also empowered by them, and they take steps whenever any disaster comes, whenever something happens, like just recently you saw during Nevar, thousands of people were taken away to higher areas, as in higher as compared to in terms of terrain. They were taken to higher areas, safe areas. They were provided with food, water, shelter, and they were displaced, especially those people who lived near coastal areas. And you can understand the importance of this this entire process of disaster management. But just imagining a scenario that, had we not had this early warning system, or our meteorological department had not been that proactive, they hadn't warned, then just imagine people, especially those whose livelihood depend on on fishing. Those fishermen, they would have been in sea fishing, right? When that cyclone would have come, and they would have died. And when that cyclone would have struck the coastal lines, then the people who, especially those people who lived near the coastal line, they would have been affected. They would have been flooded. Their homes would have been flooded, and they wouldn't even have had the time to react or even understand what exactly was going on, had this the early warning system, the proactiveness of meteorological department not been there. And this NDRF and this the National Disaster Management Authority, how they managed and displaced people, provided them with shelter and everything, had they not been affected, had they not been active, then the loss to life and property would have been huge. So that is what is the importance of disaster management. So I hope you all understood this. So that was all for this topic. Thank you.